Okay, Israel. Hope everybody is doing well today. We're back at it again. Back at it on apocalypse topics, and this is number 10, I think, on the apocalypse. And we're getting towards the end. So that's a good thing. Shout out Kawakab and his congregation in Guatemala and the other surrounding states. Hope y'all brothers and sisters are doing well today. Shout out SOW, Virginia, Houston, and Rochester, New York. Hope y'all brothers and sisters in the congregations in those three cities are thriving and are strong and are really embracing the word and the multiple options of class y'all are getting all around the camps. I hope it's really penetrating and bringing out the best of Israel. But today the title of the class is Christ's rulership with the rod of iron. Now we're getting to the point where Christ is starting to construct and set up his new kingdom. You know, from the beginning of the classes 10 some odd weeks ago, we were dealing with Christ coming down here, the nuclear bombs, Christ coming with his fire, and then just the organizing of or taking the nations and jailing them and imprisoning them, the purging of Israel. And simultaneous while Israel is being purged, we had this apocalypse world happening all around us. And then with all that being done, now we're getting towards post-purging. We read last week about the new covenant was starting to be instilled, and that was based on the Most High putting the law into our hearts. And the Israelites who were able to finish the purging the proper way, they were the ones that got transformed, and their hearts were transformed.
Just for clarity, we're not in the new covenant.
Not even close. We're not in the new covenant right now, like people seem to struggle over right now. We're not even close there. There's a lot of purging, a lot of work and sacrifice each and every one of us have to get to before the Most High deems us worthy to have taken that stony heart out of our mind and our flesh. Because each and every one of us has hate in our heart right now. That's how you know we're not in the new covenant. Very simple. There's selfishness, there's hate in each and every one of us, so we're not in the new covenant yet. Okay. So, first verse we're going to go into, we have to start off where we had kind of left off a few weeks ago. 2nd Ezra, chapter 16, verse 18 through 20. Now let's keep this in mind. Last class, the Israelites that got purged were transformed. If not physically transformed, at the very least, the weakest and most feeble amongst us were like David, right? Yeah. David's mind was like the mind of the Most High. His heart was like the heart of the Most High. So at the very least, the Most High changed our heart. Okay? And at the very best, we were transformed. So this is what's happened as we were coming out of that purging process and getting closer to having our own kingdom. But as we are having our own kingdom and things are transforming of that nature, let's keep conscious of the world surrounding us. The world surrounding us is still going, and like we mentioned before, this world's going to be brutal, dog eat dog, selfish, survivalist mentality. So let's kind of get a feel of what's going on there first. And don't forget, we mentioned in the beginning of these classes that when Christ comes down, we read in 2nd Ezra 13, that he wipes out all the armies, all the significant armies. But we can't forget, municipalities are still available. There are still police stations. There are still smaller armies that have not been seized, taken over, or destroyed or surpassed. So it's not like there's no military presence at all on the earth.
There's no major.
It's just the nuclear bombs aren't here. It's just those missile defense systems aren't there. It's that high-end elite weaponry isn't there. And large chunks of armies are eradicated. But that doesn't mean that your police forces, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Africa, whether it's all in Saudi Arabia region, there are still pockets of people with power. who have crafted and grafted in power over these years while we're being purged, right? So there is some type of infrastructure mixed in with this chaotic environment. Does that make sense? It's important that we paint that picture and kind of establish the tone of what we're dealing with. Okay? So let's get 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 18 through 20.
2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 18. The beginning of sorrows and great mourning.
So we know that this apocalypse world is the beginning of sorrows and great mourning. Read on.
The beginning of famine and great death. The beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear.
So it lets you know if there's wars happening, that means there's weapons, there's artillery, there's soldiers still being set up around the entire globe. Because that's what we're dealing with. We're with a global situation. Central, South America, portions of Canada, it's still going to be alive and thriving. We're still dealing with Africa, parts of Europe, parts of Russia, all around the world, Southeast Asia, China, everything. That's still going on. And there's still armies that are more police-based, that are set up all around the world by the time Israel is purged all throughout the world. Okay? So, let's continue.
The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come?
Read on.
Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are set as scourges for amendment.
So once again, the reason all of this chaos is happening on earth, the intention behind the chaos and the sicknesses and the wars and the death was to establish their scourges for amendment. The Most High was starting to correct the nations. He was starting to correct the environment around us with war and famine and pestilence and sadness, with the hope that when everything collapses, the entire world will turn to who?
The Most
The
High.
Most High. It's the same thinking and psychology behind why the Most High starts to do this to us in our life. Why does the Most High make our life miserable? Why does He push us to a rock bottom condition? Why does He make us suffer? Why does He allow us to go through the tribulations that He allows us to go through? They are scourges for amendment as well. But our entire life as Israelites, were a scourge of amendment. That's why we went through slavery. So we went through the quote-unquote black man's condition in America. The conquest, the colonial conquest of North, Central, and South America were scourges for amendment with the intention that we come back to the Most High. But now, at this particular time, we are already being scourged in the wilderness. So now the Most High is simultaneously working on us, and at the same time, He's starting to work on the entire world. Because the Most High's intention was to deal with Israel and the entire world at the same time. But let's read verse 20. Now, hold on real quick. Give me, I think it's Romans 2 and 14, where it says, law unto themselves.
Yep.
Come. Romans chapter 2, verse 14 reads, for when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these, having not the law, are a law unto themselves.
So the Most High, when He was sitting back here and letting the nations do their thing, He wasn't as concerned with what they were doing unless they were really affecting Israel. They were a law unto themselves. Okay? Now we're in a situation where the Most High is like, I'm hitting the world because it's time for them to know who I am. They just saw what I did. They just saw me wipe out America. They just saw me destroy the entire world, or a large portion of the army and military groups, with my presence. And what does the nation do in return? we're still operating negatively. We're still operating out the spirit. So let's continue.
Second Ezra.
Yep.
Second Ezra 16 and verse 20. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness.
So he says, when all the things they've seen Christ do to the world, Christ wipe out the nations, they see America perpetually burning, and they still live wicked. And all those traumatic incidences didn't push the world to Christ. Didn't push the world to servitude and bowing the knee and learning how to have a consciousness of the Father. Okay? This is what he is seeing amongst the rest of the world. Okay? So we have that verse, right?
So still got a little more.
Yeah, give me verse 20 from the top again.
20 from the top. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges.
And also not be mindful of the Lord's scourges. The Lord's correction for the purpose of amendment. The nations weren't aware or choosing to look, just like us. When we get stung, do we sit back here and dig deep into ourselves and say, man, what is the Most High teaching me about my wickedness?
No, we say it's bad luck.
Or it's the Most High is not fair.
Circumstance.
Bad circumstance. I can get out of this hole. It's the cost to be the boss. Dumb, low-level slogans. You know what I mean?
Charge of the game.
Yeah, charge to the game.
Yeah.
All these ridiculous low-level slogans that we use to not look at ourselves and deal with our problems. Okay? So this is what's happening with the world also. They keep pushing on. They sit back here. They deal with that famine, man. They can't call it, man. They saying they can't call it, man, in Africa. They saying, but they got about in China. They can't call it, man.
I can't call it.
I can't call it. They're saying they can't call it everywhere around the world, and they're still breaking laws, still not cleaving to the Most High, still not reaching out. I'm having to set the tone because that's very important for what we're about to go into. Right? Now, from there, go to Ecclesiastes in the Bible. Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 3, and verse 1 to verse 3.
Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1.
Can't call it, man. That's a real thing people say. Oh, let's keep going.
Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heavens.
For everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heavens. So what he's saying is, listen, man, in all things in life, there's a reason, there's a time, and there is a purpose behind it. There is a purpose behind why your life is going the way it's going. There is a purpose behind the adversity. There is a reason behind the sorrow. There is a reason behind the ups, the small victories. There is a reason that Christ is guiding us through to give us clarity about our battle. Read on.
It says, a time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant.
Why did you say die worse than a time to be born? Why was it a time to be born? And a time to die in the ground.
To be a king.
Slayer. That's where it came off when I was watching it. It's a time to die. We got out of October, man. We're out of that season. The murder, death, kill season.
I'm still listening to it.
Okay,
so
man.
Reruns,
A time to die. Dang, man. Read it from the top like it's just the death in life is the same. My God.
You're not a child.
God, it is a cycle of life. It's not like born, dead. I'm joking to the people in my class, y'all. It's just... Okay, let's go.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse...
Let's keep going now. Let's keep going.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 2. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted.
So it's time. It's a time for a rise and a fall of all things. The rise and fall of the individual. The rise and fall of societies, regimes, kingdoms, empires. that's what he's saying. There's a cycle of life in all things. Okay, read on.
A time to kill and a time to heal.
Now he's letting us know in these cycles, the Most High was sitting back here, and it might seem like mercy. It might not seem like mercy when you read it, but the Most High was letting these conditions and hoping these conditions will bring about humility and contrition by natural consequence. Now he's got to implement killing and death. Now he has to up the ante to get the world to start taking the Most High serious. Why is this important? We're talking about the nations, but the Most High is also giving us insight on how he deals with us, how he's been dealing with us. He's like, I'm sitting back here and letting the world whip up on the world in hopes that the world will come to me. Okay, they're not. After X amount of decades, they're not getting the memo. Now I got to come out here with my nation whose mind and spirit is the way I want it. Now I got to sit back and shake them up and get them to take this way more serious than they might have once done. So now he's sitting back here. Now is the time to kill. Because what happens is, maybe if they see me killing some of these people and seeing the new regime, a new empire that gets implemented in the world, what he's saying is the revolution. A lot of times when you're sitting back here and starting an entirely new way of doing things, you have to eliminate not necessarily the old, but the individuals who don't want to adjust. He's trying to set the entire world up. The real new world order is coming into effect at this point. And the nations that aren't willing to adapt and let go of their old idolatrous ways, now they're going to be the ones that are going to get wiped out and destroyed by Christ and his sons. Okay, so now is that time to kill. Read on.
Verse 3. A time to kill and a time to heal.
Before you can heal, you have to what?
Kill.
There you go. You have to start wiping out the rebels before the healing can actually happen. You said you did it again, but I want to.
Yeah, I
know. It's okay. It's okay. I'm weak at that one. So read it again, verse 3 from the top.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 3. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up.
So the killing and the breaking down process is the same thing. Yeah. He's got to break down the thinking, the idolatrous thinking, the pride, the selfishness, the ego before the good can come. He's still letting us know how he thinks towards us, because the rehabilitation process is the exact same thing, whether it's Israelites having to change or it's the rest of the world having to change. Catastrophe, hellish conditions, sickness, sorrow, suffering. The intention behind it is to get us to appreciate the Lord even the more. But our hardened hearts and wickedness a lot of times gets in the way of looking at things spiritually through adversity. So now it's time to break down and to kill in order to heal and build up. Are we clear on that? Let all that go. Let's go to the next verse and go to Micah chapter 4, verse 1 through 13. I need some spirit, sir.
Micah chapter 4, verse 1.
That's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's go.
But in the last days it shall come to pass.
Hold on. I had it and I turned the page. Yes, let's read that. Yes, go for
But in the
that.
last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountain.
What does that mean when it says the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be in top of the mountains? It says established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills. What is that saying?
Israel's going to be
Israel.
established.
There is a changing of power.
Come.
There is a changing of the guard. There is the new government. This is a literal new government.
Yeah.
This is the new government that Christ is instilling in the world. So it's telling you what time period we're at. In these last days, the Most High is going to reestablish the kingdom His way under His rules and guidelines. Okay? Read on. And it's the mountain of the Lord. Listen, why am I even slowing this part down? The mountain of the Lord. We know it's Israel, but is it about Israel or is it about the Lord? It's the mountain of Christ. And He's going to make sure all throughout this reading that we know it's about Christ and not about us. Why am I emphasizing this? For years, all we've heard about is it's about the Jew getting off feet and stomping on the white man. Yeah. It's about us getting back on whiting. Like it's a damn 1970s blaxploitation film. What's that?
I was going to answer the question.
It wasn't a question.
Well, I thought you had.
What was you going to say? What's your statement?
You said why is it that it's more so about Christ than about the children of Israel, about the chosen, right?
God.
It's because the children of Israel will never meet the standard, will not meet the standard up until that point, and doesn't deserve what we're about to get. It's only for His namesake that you see.
And His glory, exactly. It was about His glory, and that is a good answer. This has always been about Christ's glory. Yeah. This wasn't about our glory. We're just tools and instruments in the grand scheme of things to give the Most High and Christ their glory. And we have to make sure we keep that in context. Yep. We sit back here and bloviate and push the black man, the Hispanic man, the Puerto Rican man, the Dominican man. Bro, we're just along for the ride. If the Most High is merciful enough to pick us up on that ride. We make so much of ourselves, and I'm only emphasizing this because we won't get the full magnitude of what the word and the message is trying to deliver if we don't remove our ego and our overinflated sense of who we are out the picture. That's the only way the scriptures really become as clear as they need to be. This is about Christ's glory. Nothing more, nothing less. That's why it didn't say the mountain of Israel. It's the mountain of the Lord. This is the Lord's mountain. You're going to read later on that everybody flows unto Christ. So, read verse 1 again from the top.
God, Micah chapter 4, verse 1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it.
Bunch of people, a bunch of nations. At the very end, the people are going to flow through Christ. Everything funnels to Him. Let's continue.
On verse 2. And many nations shall come and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the Most High of Jacob.
The mountain of the Lord and the house of Jacob. Read on.
And He will
and the house of the Most High of Jacob. Excuse me. Read on.
And He will teach us of His ways, and we will walk in His paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.
So we know we're going to be the ones that teach. I'm not taking away all of our responsibility or trying to poo-poo on it, but let's keep it real. This is Christ's kingdom, Christ's mountain, and we're going to be serving Christ. And the word's going to get around that the nation. Now let's be specific. We're going to read this entire chapter, Micah 4. A portion of it is going to talk about the nations that are willing and that want to sit back here and serve Christ. Let's just take a quick thought. Who do you think those nations are that are going to want to serve the Most High in Christ with no problems?
Arab countries?
No, not necessarily. Don't forget, the nations came with us to get purged, didn't they?
Kenites. Oh, yeah.
No, well, not the Kenites.
During the provocation.
I want to say it again. Remember we were getting purged?
Yeah.
During the purging, the mixed multitude was with us. Mm-hmm. You don't think they're going to be the ones that are willing off rip to serve the mountain of the Lord, to follow Christ, those nations are going to follow off rip. And then you'll have other handfuls of people following also. But who's going to be the root of those nations that initially have no problem serving the Lord? It's the nations that followed us into the wilderness. Does that make sense? Once they, yes.
I didn't quite get that. You said the nations that, so is that like Ham or
No.
what came?
Couple classes back, and when the class about the Israel being purged in the wilderness, we went into the fact that Israel gets purged in the wilderness and the nations. Certain nations, the Most High allowed to get purged. The scenario that's the purging in the desert at the end times is exactly the same as the purging as Israel during the time of Egypt. When we left Egypt, there was a bunch of nations following us too. A bunch of nations followed us out of Egypt into the wilderness back in those days. And just like it happened back then, it's going to happen the same way now. So as Israel gets changed, and they're physically changed, their spirit is changed, they have a fleshy heart now. I'm not saying they're changing, but they're going to be willing to serve Christ. Because those are the ones who got past the purging. The ones that got purged there don't get killed. Got killed. Right or wrong. So now the ones that get out of that, they want to serve Christ. And they want to serve Israel willing, and they're going to follow these laws and have a willingness to do so. Now, let's go to verse 3.
God, verse 3. And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off.
So now he, come on, Christ, shall judge among many people. He's going to judge all the nations. Read on.
God.
And
rebuke strong nations afar off.
What is he saying? He's going to be correcting the nations. This is how the new world is going to be instituted. Now, is Christ going to be going every 5 places, or he's going to be using us to rebuke the nations with the law? We're going to be. That's what we're going to be doing. Listen, we think the idea that's been in our head, we're going to get the kingdom to sit up, drinking alcohol a lot, and having slaves and whipping up on slaves, having the nations be all type of servants to us, and it's just damn hedonism. It's just the flesh win. That's what the kingdom is. That's the idea that it is. But in actuality, we are called to teach now, and what do you think we'll be called to do in the future? It's to teach the nations. And I'll take that any day of the week. Because that's what we're called to do. With a pure intention and a pure heart. So we don't take advantage of the people either. So you think it's about winning and just getting things and taking advantage of people? That's not what it is. Let's continue.
God, middle of 3. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares.
So on top of the teaching of the scriptures, they're going to sit back here and eliminate any military threats they see. Any military threats they see. Listen, why do you need a gun? There's no more wars. We're teaching you to love your neighbor. Why do you need weapons? Because I won't. Well, listen, I'm going to say it again. Give me that gun, and let me teach you why you don't need that gun, or we're going to take that gun from you. M16s and AK-47s being mad at.
Yeah.
They want to keep their little guns and be crazy at. And then we have to sit back here and use force if necessary against these nations that don't give up their weapons willingly. Our job is to teach and develop and use force if necessary. They're going to beat their swords into plowshares. We're going to teach these people how to sit back here and build their farms up. They're going to have land. They're going to have property. And they're going to have enough to take care of their families. That's what they're going to be taught. And they're going to be protected from enemy invaders. So there will be no need for weapons and protection. Who do you think's doing those? Who do you think's job is to do the real peacekeeping missions? That's what the peacekeeping missions is for. You know, America sits back here and creates ISIS And then sits back here and brings military to defeat the people that they created. The military apparatuses that they created. We have to defeat ISIS. Why? You bankroll them. That's what they're doing. They're bankrolling both sides to create destabilization in the territory. That's not how it's supposed to be in Christ's realm. Read on.
God, and their spears into pruning hooks.
So even the more primitive countries, you're going to go down there in these primitive countries and stop the fighting and stop the killing. Because whether they're in more advanced countries with AKs and higher advanced weaponry or lower advanced weaponry, the reality is the nations have to learn how not to have a stony heart also. They need to learn how to love and sit back here and take care of one another, just like we had to learn. This is what we're supposed to, this is what we're going through all this for, to teach our own people and then teach the world. Read on.
God, nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
Why does a person learn war? For protection. Out of fear. Out of worry. Out of this life or death, flight or flight position. That's going to be eradicated. Okay? So we want to teach people to learn how to fear in the Lord. To trust in the Lord. To trust that there's no need to operate, to cover yourself the way you're used to covering yourself. Let's continue.
God, verse 4. But they shall sit, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid.
So it's going to get to a point that over time, they're going to learn to trust one another. They're going to learn to respect one another. They're going to learn to love the Most High and just deal with their own people in their own conditions. You got to understand this. Let's just use Africa for example. I forgot the meeting, but it was in the late 1800s when like 6 to 7 European nations decided how they want to set the borders up in Africa. Was it Belfort? I don't think it was Belfort.
Different countries within the continent.
Africa. I'm sorry, Germany, Britain, France,
Europe.
Belgium. Yeah, all of them sat back here in the 1800s, late 1800s, and they just said, okay, how are we going to sit back here and split up Africa? So,
Monroe?
no, it wasn't Monroe. But they came together and they sat back here and they split up Africa into all these different countries, not caring nor realizing that they were splitting up families, territories, and regions. They didn't keep their original landmarks properly. So what they ended up doing is making enemies with brothers, with family. It's no different than India that did the same thing.
The Berlin Conference.
The Berlin Conference. It was in Germany.
Scramble for Africa.
And when the Scramble for Africa was one of the main guys who was a Brit who was fighting for major chunks of that country. But that meeting in Berlin, they just split up Africa, not really giving a damn about how the people were going to be affected. And they used these border adjustments, and they ended up creating enemies outside of these borders. So we had to sit back here and come back and reteach these people that these people are your brothers. There's no reason to hate these people. And through American policy, British policy, their entire policy of divide and conquer have split up families and nations and groups that are really family. We have to unteach that hatred. Unteach generations of war. That takes years. You got, even in India, you have these breakups in India about Pakistani and India. They're the same people.
And some nations are
Hindu, then in India, Hindu and Islam.
Oh, I see.
It's a major conflict.
That's a major conflict
Same
in the country.
bloodline people.
Different
religion.
What it's saying is, before Britain left, they were all working together, living together, different belief systems, but they're the same people. He left and said, this part is where the Hindus can live, and this part is the only place where the Islam believe people can live. And then it caused all kind of tension and civil war and massive destruction before they left. That's how Esau rose. Mission was accomplished. They'll never come together. This is how Esau operates in each country to maintain power and dominance. So that's part of what we have to fix. When our heart gets changed from the stony to the fleshy, we got to teach them how to love one another, how to let go of generations of conflict and hatred and loathing of each other and the people around them. That's part of the task, and that's where it says sword, to not lift up a sword against a nation, neither will they learn war anymore. Because there's not going to be anybody being pitted against one another. Even that movie Hotel Rwanda, they had the Tutsis and the Hutus. They're the same people. They just had different families that Esau used to divide the country in half. One of the groups were the elite, the other were the poor. That's all it was. It was the rich and the poor of Rwanda. And Esau pitted the rich or the poor against the rich and painted a picture that the poor defeated and took advantage of the rich, and it wasn't even that way. The whole Hotel Rwanda experience was a lie. And all they used it as a propaganda tool to get the rich back in power because they were ousted in the early 1900s. Anyway, I can't count on my hand how many divide and conquer tactics have been used in this world since the beginning of time. Hell, even in the black community, light skin and dark skin. That was a tactic that was used from the beginning of time. In Mexico, it's the same way. You know, in Issachar, if you're dark skinned, you are the devil. If you light skin, you're all right.
Dominicans too.
Listen, there's a saying with black folks. Listen, if you're black, stay back. If you're white, you're right. Brown, stick around. White, you're right.
Red, you're dead.
Listen,
Yellow, be mellow. That's the whole.
I've heard that part too.
these are real things
I've heard that.
in the community. All I'm trying to say is these divisions and these dividing factors were never dividing factors until the powers that be came into effect. It wasn't even a tactic that America used first. Britain was great at that. They were the best. And then we sat back and took notes and did it like them. So, these are the things that's going to take years to fix. You think this thing happens overnight? How long does it take us to get fixed? Or to get halfway decent? So, why am I even saying that? So we ain't going to be sitting back here. They were taught the Torah. Now it's kingdom time for me. Where's my gold? Where's my money? Where's my rib? Where's my planet? I've heard that before too. I can't. How are we going to live in different planets when the nation's got to get taught? How about that? You gonna sit back here and teleport back to planet Xanadu, and then you come down to your country. You got to go the next day. That's ridiculous. I'm trying to take the cartoon out the Bible out. I'm trying to take Space Jam out the Bible out.
That's crazy.
Space Jam.
I'm trying to take Space Jam out of there, right? Oh, no, I said Space Jam because I meant Space Jam. So listen, let's continue out.
God. Read verse 4 again.
Read verse 4 again.
God. But they shall sit, every man under his vine and under his fig tree.
They're going to deal with their own people again. All of their people. And learn to work together. Because what do you think this is about? Getting everybody to embrace the Lord and to love one another. Read on.
God. And none shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts hath spoken it.
But in order to make sure none is afraid, there's a lot of conditions you have to control. There's people that want to keep things the way they are. There's instigating people, instigating environments. That's not an easy situation. Is it easy to sit back here and make the entire body of Christ at peace? That's hard as hell. And we kind of got the Bible. It's hard to keep 15, 20 men locked in. Am I right or wrong? Imagine an entire nation of people who have been at war with each other for hundreds of years. That's the task that we have, being the chosen, if we get through the wilderness. Read on.
God, verse 5. For all people will walk every one in the name of his God.
And that's a problem. The nations are going to still have their belief systems. It's one thing, we got to teach unity. Then we got to teach them to learn the Most High from scratch.
Yep.
They're going to have their own God they believe in, huh? Their own idols. Islam. Think how it's going to shake Islam out of ham. Islam was beaten the ham for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
1,000+ years.
Yeah.
Islam was a wave in the world since the 500s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So literally it's like, so things we look forward to while learning, like living the steps of Jeremiah, Samuel, going to all these circuits, teaching, going here, going there, living a life.
And having to rebuild humanity from scratch. That's a real job. That's our calling. That's all work, though. For people who understand what working with 15, 20 people and the wild cards you deal with, the unexpected scenarios that pop out in your life, that's work. Now let's multiply that into millions. You're still dealing with the globe. So you're still dealing with millions, even if billions are wiped out. Right? Well, exactly. So this is what we're facing when Christ comes back in the reinstituting of the entire world. Read on.
Come.
Verse 5 from the top again.
Yes, sir. Verse 5. For all people will walk every one in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our power forever and ever.
That right there lets you know how much work is still on the table. After there's peace. After there's peace, you still got to work on their belief and their relation with the Heavenly Father. Read on.
God, verse 6. In that day, saith the Lord, I will assemble her that halted.
Now this is talking about Israel. He's going to assemble them that halted. Halted, let's get a definition real quick. I like the best halted definition was in, what was this book called? The Eastward. And, let me get Micah. 4:6. Halteth means he's going to sit back and assemble all of them that are lame, injured, beat down, broken, suffered injury. Okay? Read on.
And I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted.
All of Israel that's been afflicted, hurt, halted, damaged, will be collected also. Read on.
Verse 7. And I will make her that halted a remnant.
I mean, there's not going to be a lot of us that are going to be damaged and hurt anymore. He said the ones that are damaged and hurt are going to be at a small number. Read on.
God. And her that was cast afar off, a strong nation.
I'm going to make Israel a strong nation again. The ones that were cast aside, he's going to make us strong. What we're reading, he's going back again. He's going back. He's reading forward from Micah 4 verse 1 to 5. Then he's going back about how he developed Israel and how he sat back here and built us up from scratch. After what? After the thermonuclear bombs hit America. We're going back now, and I'm going to explain it. Let's continue.
God, middle of 7.
Read 7 from the top again.
Come from the top. And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast afar off a strong nation. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever.
From verse 1 to 5 is dealing with how the Lord is going to deal with these nations. Verse 6 down deals with how the Most High is working with us. And how he worked with us when we halted, we were weakened, we were lame, we were scattered abroad. The scattering gives it away. We were scattered in the beginning of all this apocalypse stuff. By the time we get to the end, we're together. And we're part of that mountain of the Lord. That's united. Well, you see how he's starting back and working his way forward again. Let's continue.
Con, verse 8.
Is everybody clear on that?
Con.
Okay, let's continue.
Verse 8. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem.
See, he said the kingdom is going to come to Israel. So he's letting you know it hasn't happened yet. So he's going back in time and leading up to the same present moment. Okay? That's all that's happening. Read on.
Verse 9. Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished?
He's like, and then he's like, listen, after you guys get delivered, and after I take you out of these conditions that have you spread out, after I take you out of the conditions of having you halted and lame and beaten down, and after I take away your suffering, why are you crying now? He says, is there no king in thee? I mean, is there no leader that's advocating for you anymore? The answer is yes. Read on.
God, is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished?
No. Read on.
God, for pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail.
What he's saying is everything that Israel suffered as a nation is why we were still suffering. We're crying, and at the end, there are tears of joy. We're going to give the proof in a little bit. All the tears come from all the suffering we endure. Remember we read in Jeremiah 31 about how we're going to be crying when everything is said and done? After we get delivered, all the pain we suffered, everything we endured to get to this point, you don't think you're going to be crying? If we sit back here and we finally finish after the losses and the downtrodden moments and all the ups and downs that we had to go through to get to the end. So now Christ is like, why are you crying? Is there no king? Is there no counselor? You have no leader? No. He says you're crying for the pains that have taken you as a woman in travail. All the pain that you suffered leading up from the beginning to the end is why you're crying at the end. Read on.
Con, verse 10. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion.
Because Christ knows in order to finish, you have to endure the pain. You have to endure the sadness. You have to endure the scourgings. And when we just read in 2 Ezra 16 about the scourgings were for the amendments. You had to endure the correction and the fighting and the pain and take it the right way and understand it's in order for us to grow and get closer to Christ. So he's like, you can't run from the pain. You can't run from the suffering. Take the pain, and that's how you are able to labor to bring forth and finish what we start. Read on.
God, be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail.
Yes. Because all the pain that woman goes through in child support is going to end up being what? Beneficial, good, and a blessing. And like we read in the scriptures, a woman's salvation is based upon her what?
Childbearing.
But what does the childbearing mean? It's the pain that you go through to get the child. It's what you suffer to get the child is why you're justified to get the kingdom. It's what she has to go through to get to that point to have the child, and then what she has to suffer in raising that child. That is necessary to get the kingdom and to have access to the kingdom, and we're no different. We have to labor to bring forth also. Labor to bring forth that what? That new man. And that new woman in Christ. So Christ is like, this, why are you crying? Because you're laboring and suffering to get to the end. Read on.
God, middle of 10. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon.
So once again, remember I said he's going back. You got to go to Babylon. He's not talking about the first Babylon. This is the second Babylon. You have to go through or this is both Babylons, because this is talking about the entire process that we have to go to get to the last days. And that is what the laboring to bring forth is. The suffering, the captivities, the slavery, the loss of our identity, the loss of our nationality, the loss of our language. All of this suffering has to happen for us to get to these last days where we can teach the nation and put the war in order. Sometimes you read the chapters, it can be confusing because it's talking about one period of time, then it goes back and leads you back to the front again. Does that make sense?
God.
Read on.
Middle of 10. There shall thou be delivered.
See, he's talking about the deliverance that has to come when you go to Babylon. We didn't get delivered in the first Babylon. Christ delivers us in the second Babylon. Read on.
God. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies.
And there the Lord's going to redeem us from the hand of our enemies. And once we're redeemed, we're developed, we're purged, then we come back around and we're with Christ on top of the mountain, putting the rest of the world in order. Right? Hold this and go to Jeremiah 31. At the top one. Jeremiah 31, verse 16 through 18. There's more of it, but we read this last week, so I don't want to overdo the point.
Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 16.
31, verse 16 through 18.
Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 16. Thus saith the Most High, refrain thy voice from weeping, and thine eyes from tears.
We just read that in Micah. You're going to keep reading the same thing regurgitated back and forth. He says, stop your crying, stop your tears. Why are you crying? You're at the end. Read on.
Refrain thy voice from weeping, and thine eyes from tears.
Or, why break, though you can't break down, you have to suffer these things. You have to suffer and endure it until the end. Read on.
For thy work shall be rewarded, saith the Most High.
This is what he's saying. All that sacrifice, everything we give up daily, the fight to have discipline and humility and mercy and patience and long suffering, everything we endure for one another will be rewarded. What we do for the Most High is not in vain. What we do for Christ is not in vain. What we do for our families and the brothers around us and the sisters around us is not in vain. We're not just going through the motion, driving trucks, dealing with shit for nothing. Read on.
And they shall come again from the land of the enemy.
Yes. Read on.
And there is hope in thine end.
There is going to be hope in our end. Read on.
Saith the Most High, that thy children shall come again to their own border.
Eventually, we're going to go back to our own border, and that's what we're reading about in the last days. After we're purged, we're going back to Jerusalem. We're going to go back to our own border at the end. Read on.
I have surely heard Ephraim bemoaning himself thus. Thou hast chastised me, and I was chastised, as a bullock unaccustomed to the yoke.
We read about this last week. About part of that sad, downtrodden feeling is the realization that we deserve every bad thing that happened to us. The acceptance that we were the ones who brought ourselves to these lowly, downtrodden places. We're the ones that pissed the Most High off so much that he turned his back from us and allowed us to endure slavery and captivity in these different countries and cities and provinces. To everybody, if you think you're from Mexico or you're in Puerto Rico or Central and South America, the people that are over you are still Edomites. And they're still putting you through slavery. And it's still our fault. So at the end, when we're coming to the realization of why we had to suffer, that sadness is going to be on us. We had to go through this. We have to experience this sadness in order for us to what? Appreciate the good. Just like in 2nd Ezra 16, that the entire world has to experience suffering in order to appreciate the good that's about to come. It's the same concept. When you come from apocalypse world, and then we're teaching the nation that you don't got to fear anymore, you don't think that is a blessing? You don't got to fear for your life? You got to fear for some raiding ass group of people trying to take you and your daughters and take all of your food and supplies? That's what also is taking away that fear is all about. I hope it's all coming together. All the classes, it starts to piece itself together pretty clean. Let's continue.
And I was chastised as a bullock unaccustomed to the yoke. Turn thou me, and I shall be turned, for thou art the Most High my power.
We're done.
Surely after
19.
that,
I definitely want 19. Slocky.
okay. Surely after that, I was turned. I repented, and after that, I was instructed. I smote upon my thighs. I was ashamed.
That's where that fear and the crying comes from. I was ashamed of my conduct. We're going to be ashamed of our wickedness. When everything is said and done, our character, how we rolled, how we thought, how despicable we were, and how the Most High had mercy on us anyway. Read on.
I was ashamed, yea, even confounded, because I did bear the reproach of my youth.
So when the Most High changes us, He's not changing our mind, how we thought, our past, our history. He's changing our heart to be more fleshy, but we're going to remember how wicked we were. Why is that important? Exactly. That brings about that much more humility. To be reminded how much of a dirtbag we were and how wicked and selfish we were. And this is why Christ was like, why are you crying? He said, you have no king and no leader? No, we're crying because of the pain that it takes to get to the end and the sadness we're going to feel because we turned our back against the Most High so many times. So many times. Those are the reasons where the tears are going to still be there at the end. Let that go and go back to Micah chapter 4, verse 11 through 13.
God, Micah chapter 4, verse 11. Now also many nations are gathered against thee that say.
Now we're going back to these nations. Verse 1 through 5 was about the nations. 6 through 10 was about Israel. Getting prepared, going forth and travailing as a nation. Now we're back at verse 11, and these nations are riling up again. Read on. We just talked. Remember verse 5 said that the nations still were following their gods. Right? Read verse 11.
God, verse 11. Now also many nations are gathered against thee that say, let her be defiled.
The nations are like, let her be defiled. The nations still don't want to serve the Most High. And a lot of the nations are going to want it to be how it used to be and are not willing to let the Most High's way be the preeminent way again. And this is why the Lord's going to have to rule the world with a rod of iron. Because the rest of the world, as a whole, aren't going to want to submit. In the beginning of it was those nations that got purged. But a lot of the world ain't going to just sit back here and change for nobody.
But don't we read about Most High saying that nation will not bring forth the fruits and the necessary blessings?
That's later.
There will be.
That's later, though. First things first. Asses got to get whipped.
Yes.
Death! Murder! Has to happen first.
Now you see how it's being like,
Rah, rah, rah. That has to happen first.
mandatory.
Then all the other penalties have to kick in. We're keeping it light, y'all. But most I got to start killing and destroying the proud of the world.
Yeah.
Because that element has to be eliminated in order for the rest of the world to properly submit. Yes.
So it's not going to be a democracy.
This is a wholly totalitarian government. Wholly totalitarian under Christ. And that's what's going to happen. So there is definitely going to be killing. Because when you develop any type of group, you can't have a bunch of dissent mixed in with service. So we had council on Saturday. It can't be both. Everybody's got to see things the right way, or that element got to get attacked. And this is what's happening with Christ. There's this movement of people that are eyeing Zion in a negative light. Read verse 11 again.
God, verse 11. Now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion.
That's the point. There's going to be that negative sentiment around the world that has to get purged. And from reading 2 Ezra chapter 16, they didn't learn the spiritual lesson during that apocalypse time. So now Christ got to come in and up the ante and put these people in order. Right? Read on.
God, verse 12. But they know not the thoughts of the Most High.
They don't know how the Most High thinks, and they don't know how swift He is the judgment at this particular time. Because now it's time to kill. Now it's time to break down. You can't properly build until you break. And if we're reading this properly, the teaching is trying to be established first, and then there's resistance. And then when that resistance kicks in, then the death got to kick in. Then there will be peace. Read on.
God, middle of 12.
Read 12 again.
God, verse 12. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they His counsel. For He shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor.
Sheaves are the stalk that hold the wheat. Sheaves are the stalk that holds the wheat. In order to get the wheat out, in order to get the good out, you got to beat that sheave to the floor. You got to beat the sheave so you can get the good and separate the good from the bad. Or the good wheat from the portions of the stalk that you can't use. So this is the process that the Most High is going to use to purge the nations. He's going to beat the nations in submission so that the negative ones are eradicated and wiped off the map, and the salvageable wheat can be sustained. He does this. This is how the Most High purges. So he went through a purging process with us in the wilderness doing the same thing. Can you take the pounding? Can you take the purging? Can you take the beating? If you will, you'll be that wheat that the Lord can use. If you don't, you're going to get kicked out and wiped off the map. This is what's happened to the nations also. Read verse 12 again.
God, verse 12. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they His counsel. For He shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor.
He's going to gather them, gather all the nations, and beat them into submission to see which ones are worth keeping and which ones are to be burned and destroyed. Read on.
Verse 13. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion.
He says, arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion. So Christ is purging, but who is He using to purge?
Israel.
Daughter of Zion, which is Israel. I want you to go purge these nations. And the ones that don't want to lock in, the ones that eye Zion negatively, I want you taking them off the map. And this is where these wars are going to get started. This makes sense. Does it make sense? Read on.
Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hooves brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people.
This is when the death toll starts to rise. And this is when we are the instruments of the Lord's destruction. And that's in later on in the verse. Class. This is when we come in and we go to war. What you see is a long developing process that we're even given this responsibility. Just think about what he's saying. He says our job in Christ, obviously, is to gather the nations as the sheaves on the floor, and we have to thresh. That's still, you have to have the right judgment to do that. You have to be in the right spirit to know what spirit needs death and what spirit needs mercy. You can't be some angry, wicked, just person who has a bloodlust to do that job. You already have to have a fleshy heart. And that heart out of us would have had to have been removed before we sit back here and are put into position to judge the right way. Yes, sir.
There's a lot of different elements of non-biblical force that could be used before biblical force is the last option.
Exactly. But you can't have no psychopaths out here, right? Jew psychopaths with fringes, right? There are Jew psychopaths with fringes, right?
God.
that are given a license to kill and will just sit back and just kill out.
If
I want to kill for Christ. Let me kill then. You don't think that's a real thing?
God.
So the Most High got to make sure the heart in Israel is right enough to even do that. Most High is merciful. Christ's merciful on the entire world. Read on.
God, middle of 13. And I will make thy host brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth.
So what he's saying is these people that don't want to lock in, they're going to get killed and looted. And their resources are going to go as offerings to the Lord. And they're going to be used to help the world out. It said, I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. The Most High is going to get his tithe, and everything else gets spoiled amongst the people, amongst Israel, who goes to war with them. That makes sense. It's the same rules apply when we're putting the world in order. Like we did during the time of David. You take out a kingdom, Most High gets his spoil, you get the rest. Let that verse 13 go. Now we go to Zephaniah 3 and 6 through 8.
Right.
Zephaniah 3, verse 6 through 8.
Come. Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 6. I had cut off the nations. Their towers are desolate.
When it says the nation's towers are desolate, what does the towers represent? Their fortifications. Their fortifications are getting wiped out. Christ is eradicating this last insurrection group's weaponry, their artillery forces. They're getting wiped off the map too. Read on.
I made their streets waste, that none passeth by. Their cities are destroyed, so that there is no man, that there is none inhabitant. I said, surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive instruction. So
listen, he says he's wiping out these nations. He's breaking them down. He's taking their power and their strength away from them. And the Most High's thinking is, because I did that and I destroyed their cities and I destroyed their habitations, so that there's no man, that there is none inhabitant. When did that happen? After the bombs came down here and destroyed the world. And everything got brought back down to like ancient times. He said, I smashed the world. Very few inhabitants are on earth now. Read verse 7.
God, I said, surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive instruction.
This is the same thing that sentiment was in 2nd Ezra 16. He said, listen, I wiped you guys out when I came down and destroyed the nations and destroyed everybody in the wars. When he came down with that fire from heaven and took out all the major weaponry and the kingdoms on earth and the armies on earth, he said, surely they'll sit back here and receive instruction now. Right? That's his thinking. Read on.
I said, surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive instruction, so that dwelling should not be cut off. Howsoever, I punished them, but they rose early and corrupted all their doings.
Same thing that we read in 2nd Ezra 16. He came and destroyed these armies. He left. He took the people of Israel. He purged them, focused his mind on them, and said, surely they're ready for me and my nation now. And he said they corrupted themselves early and deviated early. You see how the stories are lining up? Zephaniah, 2nd Ezra, Micah 4, they're all tying in. The expectation after he brought everything back to the Stone Age was he was going to expect humility from the world after he's purging Israel. He comes out, Israel's purged, they're ready to go, and the world never learned their lesson. Read on.
Verse 8. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith the Most High, unto the day that I rise up to the praise.
Now he's like, just wait until I deal with these remaining rebels. Israel still has to wait on Christ's call. Read on.
For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdom.
He's gathering the nations like he's like gathering sheaves. For what? To get beef. He's going to gather those nations, gather these armies, gather these kingdoms, just like you gather the corn or the wheat to get beat down on the ground. Read on.
It says, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy.
So the whole world is going to see the example that Christ sets forth when he comes back and forcibly puts the rest of the world in order. This is what's happening. And as part of the forcible responsibilities he's putting on these nations, read verse 9.
Verse 9. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Most High, to serve him with one consent.
After he wipes out all the rebels, now he can teach these Hamites and these Chinese from Hong Kong to learn to love the Most High. You're going to learn Hebrew. Hebrew is the world's language. You're going to let go of your culture. When you start changing languages, you're changing culture now. You're changing your entire way of looking at things. But he says, he said, I can teach the rest after I kill the rebels. He's going to wipe out the rebellious of the entire world and reteach the entire world the law, the Hebrew, the right way to operate and serve the Most High. All that's about to happen. So, does that make sense? How he's going to sit? He is going to use us to do these things. But once we sit back here and do the killing, then he can sit back here and teach. Then he can re-educate the entire world. Listen, when you sit back and the scripture says how the Most High is going to do double unto Esau for what he did to us, this is what Esau did to us. He wiped out the rebels and taught us and made us learn English, right or wrong. They broke us. They took our heritage and our culture from us and gave us Roman Catholicism, gave us Christianity. Gave us this by force. Now you know what's going to happen? Everything's turning over, and they got to go through the same thing. They're going to, by force, they're going to have to change their language. They don't have a choice. They're going to have to serve the Heavenly Father. They're not going to have a choice. And the ones that are tripping, we're going to wipe you out. Just like Dad, when they was tripping on a new belief system coming in, they were getting killed. They killed the old and taught the what? Taught the young.
Yep.
This is how it's going to happen too for us. But this is Christ's way. Okay. Let that go. And this ties in with what Christ said in Luke 19 and 27. Read Luke 19 and 27.
Luke chapter 19, verse 27. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me.
So this now we understand what kind of talking Christ is talking in this verse. It just wasn't that his time to do it. That wasn't his time to execute that judgment. Well, Christ is like, listen, man, when it's his turn, the ones that don't lock in, I want you to kill them for me. That's how we know we're going to be his battle axe and weapons of war. We're going to be the ones that put these nations in order under Christ's orders. But we're going to be in the right spirit. Okay? Let that verse go and go to Jeremiah 51, verse 19 to 23.
Come.
We good? We good? We good? Jeremiah 51, verse 19 to 23.
Come.
Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 19 reads, the portion of Jacob is not like them.
What is he saying? What Israel gets is not going to be like what the rest of the world gets. Hell, you read that in Deuteronomy, where it says the world was given their borders after Israel was given theirs. He's like, our portion is going to be greater than the rest of the world's. There's no doubt about that. Yes, Shalom.
He set the bounds of the people according to the borders of Israel.
Exactly. Their boundaries are established based upon what he gave us. And he's like, what we get is not going to be what they get. Read on.
Come. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name.
So let's keep this in balance. We are his chosen. We are the rod of his inheritance. There is no debating that. Read on.
Come. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war.
He's letting us know we're going to be the ones that he uses to order, organize, and execute judgment around the world. Okay? We're his special instruments and tools, especially once we get cleaned up and that wicked heart's pulled out of us. Now he can actually do something with us. Read on.
Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms.
He's going to destroy kingdoms that are what? Rebellious. The Most High is not going to just be destroying kingdoms just for the hell of it. He's destroying kingdoms that are out of order and have no allegiance towards the Heavenly Father and show a lack of willingness to submit to the Heavenly Father and show a lack of willingness to adapt. You think all the nations going to change their Hebrew language? Change the language of Hebrew?
Nope.
Change their culture? Start wearing fringes?
The morals and the ways of thinking.
Hamon will take off them dashikis and start wearing fringes? I will not do that. I will not do that. I want my spear and my gods. A lot of nations.
That plate is What's that plate?
Yeah, I want that plate and spitting like this,
No more
moving like
plates,
this, just bringing spit to people out. Listen, we used to go to those festivals out, and I would see people with those little mouth bowls out, and then the bowls were just full of spit out. I'm like, I hope this ninja doesn't move his head to me like this out. I'm serious, bro. That's how it rolls. Right? They have their staff, like the staff makes them more wise. Right? And you gotta get a spitball in your mouth. Right? But that's real. They want to get rid of that culture, right? But we're gonna be the instruments used to put them in order. It's facts. It's gross. Well, let's keep going. Listen, I always joke, man. I don't want the African side of that. Can you take me somewhere else out? Take me somewhere else out. I will go to all these other countries. I'm okay at. I just don't want to go to Congo at. Is there a way, Lord, you can take me out of that, man, and give me another assignment? Most of them are like, no, you're going straight to Africa, my dude. You're going to the land of the Philistines. I'm messing with you.
What matter is this? What matter is this?
You're going to the land of Manute Bol. You're going there, bro. You're going to Manute Bol's kingdom. Yes,
No, I was thinking about that too, because there's going to be various assignments, right? You're going to have like rural, remote,
Yeah,
silence,
yes.
and brush.
Yes.
We got brothers in the cities.
Yes. You want to be? We're gonna be all split up doing that job.
Sticks.
Con.
In the jungle.
Listen, you got to follow orders, bro. It don't matter where you want to go. No, B. You going around where the Lord wants you.
I love that jungle. Right?
You better love wherever at. Wherever the Lord wants me, it's gonna be good. This is jokes. This is jokes that we saying right here online.
Love that desert.
You gotta love the desert anyway. Listen, after the desert, everything's cake.
I don't know that cold.
Give me the code. I'm cool with no Congo. Give me the. Y'all don't want code? I will go to the code. That's okay. That is okay. I'm cool. You can always bundle up. You can always wear coats, man. That's easy. It's light, man. I'll go to Eskimo Town. I'll go to Eskimo Town. I will go to the Eskimo Town. It's okay. Anyway.
Russia?
I'll go to Russia. I will go to Russia. It is okay there, too.
Iceland.
It's all good, bro. Just no Congo for the kid. I'm okay.
Iceland's green. Greenland's the cold. Oh, Greenland's ice.
It's all good. It's all good. Listen, anyway, here we go, man. But listen, verse 20
Jeremiah
again.
chapter 51 and verse 21 read.
Verse 20 again.
Okay, come from the top. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms.
But listen now. The Lord is telling us, the most glorious job on the earth is to serve Christ and rebuild people. What greater job is that? It's to sit back here under the Lord's orders, is to go teach, develop, and put the world in order, and if necessary, you got to use violence to be those weapons of war. There is not a greater calling on earth. This is why working for our people, working with your people, suffering with your people, gets you prepared for the greatest job on earth, post-apocalypse. What greater job is it? I'm an ambassador for the Congo. I don't like Congo, but being an ambassador for Congo in the name of Christ, that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. To sit back here and be chosen to help rebuild a nation and develop them from the ground up doesn't get better than that, man. So why are we tripping on working with each other now?
Right.
Aha. It's the same thing. This is what we're going to be doing on an even more difficult level when we get changed.
We'll start when Christ comes back.
And those guys ain't going to make it. Because listen, I don't care nobody. You just going to turn on the spirit and turn it off when you feel like it. It just, I'm in the spirit now. I'm teaching the scriptures. Come on, you think it's that easy, to just be spiritual and be in order after being carnal as hell for years?
That's the equivalent to like the spirit.
You're doing this. That's the same thing. That is the same thing. It's not gonna work. Like this. You take all the now. Yeah, that's essence. I'm ready. Spiritual. Now I'm ready for counsel.
Free essence.
Now I'm ready. Because I'm around the guys who know what they're doing. That doesn't work, guy. It's crazy, bro. Let's continue, man.
Verse 21. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider.
Listen, when it says horse and rider, who's on horses? The elites, the people in power. He says our job is to sit back here and take the governors and the police precinct individuals that aren't giving up power, that aren't giving up control, that continue to have the people in fear. Remember Micah 4, we're supposed to sit back here and take away the fear from the people. How do you take away that fear? You got to sit back here and eliminate all the threats of the area, of the region.
All the oppressors.
All the oppressors got to get wiped out. The organized oppressors. It's going to be on a very small local level individually, and just as a society, there's going to be things set up where there's warlords in these countries.
It's like it always is.
Like it always is. We got to sit back here and go with the cats that are the warlords. Go with the cats that are at the top. The horse and the rider.
It's gonna be like the road. It's gonna be like Roadhouse.
I was gonna say Roadhouse Act. I was gonna say it, but I was like, man, I don't want to
Like
keep it too
Roadhouse
funny.
Act,
I don't want to keep it too light Act. Where the guy sat in the white
Swayze's
suit.
come out.
Come
With the
on,
Bible out.
yes, but not Swayze. But kind of Hebrew saviors.
Judite Swayze.
Judite Swayze. Listen, how about what is going to be the anointed of Christ?
Yeah.
Going to save the day out. And take out the horse and the rider. Those are the leaders, the elites.
And that's a whole lot. That's a whole job. That's a whole lifetime. Work.
That's my point.
That's not like
You got to eradicate the wicked and then teach the people from scratch.
Is it kind of like
You're teaching them a new language. Who's teaching them language?
you?
The kingdom men.
Yeah,
the kingdom guys.
That
All I hear about is gold all of my watch, gold all of my fingers. That's all they want to talk about. Is gold all of my neck and fingers, and I'm flossing.
You can't
Don't believe me? Just watch me. I'm gonna be a king and a prince then. Step on the neck. No, you gotta go out here and say ba, ga, da, ha. No.
over and over and over and over.
Yeah, more than. So then we're going to focus on the letter A.
Allah.
Cattle. Bull? No, cattle. Bull? Then your heart is going to pee out? That's us. That's our job. How about that? That don't sound as awesome as we want to make it in our head up. The kingdom guy. I'm the kingdom. I'm the kingdom. Kingdom.
You have inspection in the morning. You push up.
Yes.
You 100 push up.
Yes.
The inspection, we gotta argue with people. It's gonna be every day. Listen, why aren't you?
How do you study your Hebrew language?
I don't like this Hebrew. I don't like it. It's like, bro, you gotta drop, huh?
What do you mean?
It's gonna be never ending.
Listen, that is teaching. That's the kingdom. That's kingdom building. 101. How about that? How about them apples? That takes away all the dopeness and the imagination that you might have in your brain about the kingdom.
All the dope AI pictures of the Hebrews out.
Yeah, they're like super, got striations and they're buff out. Everybody got perfect froze. And there's laser beam behind you. Pew. All that, brother. None of that matters. You got to teach people. You got to get chalk and crayons and talk to people.
You're gonna be dusty.
And pieces of paper out. Somebody got to dig ditches. The nation gonna do all the labor, but we got to teach. Yes, sir.
Is this when rank is really going to take an effect? Or you're going to be over 5,000 men?
Yes.
10,000 men?
Yeah.
You're going to have to govern women, children.
Yeah.
families?
Now the blessing is that the people, there's a grueling purging process to get you to that point. And everybody that has the wrong intention is going to get purged before we get to this position. And we're going to be the ones that are doing this, that stony heart is going to get removed. It's going to be removed before we get to this assignment. And the ones who are prepared to do so will do it. But the point is, those are the honorable jobs. Those are the honorable jobs. To put the world in order. I'm just sitting back and let you know how it is glorious. This job is glorious, but it don't feed the ego. You think this feeds the ego? But the work we do wasn't supposed to feed the ego, even on earth.
I did have one question.
What's that?
This is a quick question.
Well, I'll get it. I'll answer you.
Yeah.
Just let me.
I'm trying to change the topic. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let's continue.
But if that, it seems like that would be the situation if we are teachers, then you have multiple.
Well, we'll get into it. Let me get it. Let's keep going on this. Read verse 20 again.
Come, verse 20 again.
20 and 21, yes.
Okay, come. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms, and with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider.
Militaries, principalities that are over jurisdictions. That's going to be our job to eradicate that. Read on.
With thee also will I break in pieces man and woman.
Listen, the ones who don't want to lock in. Men and women. Read on.
And with thee will I break in pieces old and young.
Because pride doesn't have an age. You can be proud as an older person or a young person. Pride is pride. Read on.
And with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid.
Read on.
I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock. And with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen. And with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers.
That's what we were saying. So also think about what he's saying. Read verse 23 again.
Come, verse 23. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock. And with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen.
So what is this saying? For us to sit back here and put in order the shepherd and his flock and the husbandman and their yoke of oxen. What is that? We're in control of food production. We're going to be in control of the people who are doing the work and the produce of the world. And if they don't lock in, we're commandeering their stuff too. This is us. There's the head of agriculture, right? We're going to be heading all the agriculture and making sure. Why are we going to be controlling the agriculture?
So there's no pressure.
To make sure the food is properly dispersed.
Yeah.
To make sure that the food is the right food is being built together. No more pig.
Nope.
No more pig anymore. Dietary laws are followed to make sure people aren't being taken advantage of with their food. Because food is a weapon.
Yep.
You don't think that was happening in the apocalypse world? People with the money called it the food. With the food called the shots.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is, listen, these people can't have control over the food anymore. We have to have control over the food to make sure the people are fed. That the cattle are raised properly. So that the people can eat proper meat and vegetables. We have to sit back and control every aspect of society.
It's supposed to be a blessing to the world. Because now we're doing it the right way.
Exactly the point. No more GMO crap. No more cows eating corn.
Starving children.
We had to sit back here and eliminate world hunger. That's what this is. We had to sit back here and in each person's land, we had to sit back here and make sure there's space for gleaning. Yep. We have to teach the people how to leave enough food for the poor to have. We have to teach it, enforce it, and make sure the agricultural situation all around the world is fair and just. This is a significant responsibility of reestablishing the world under Christ's established order. It's not just about killing, murder, killing. Let that go. Go to St. John chapter 18 and 36.
St. John chapter 18, verse 36. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Read that.
St. John chapter 18, verse 36. Yahushua answered, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight.
Now we understand what this means. Because in Christ's kingdom, his servants, which are us, are going to fight to execute his orders and establish the world the way Christ wants it. And we understood at the time that Christ said this, it wasn't his world. He didn't have the power. But he understood this was a foreshadowing statement, because when he did have his kingdom, we were going to fight to instill and enforce the laws that he is going to lay down on earth. Read on.
Okay. It says that I should not be delivered to the Jews, but now is my kingdom not from hence.
His kingdom isn't for here yet. He understood when he had his power, we would sit back and enforce the stipulations he has laid down. Let that go. And go to Zechariah chapter 14, verse 13 and 14.
God. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 13.
Zechariah 14, 13, and 14.
God. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor.
So he's like, these wars are going to happen. The spirit of war and chaos and fighting one another is going to erupt as soon as the thermonuclear bombs drop. Verse 12 of this chapter tells you about when the nukes hit the earth, right? That's what verse 12 tells you. Verse 13 tells you immediately after these bombs drop, there's going to be wars and fighting amongst the people after that. We explain that in 2 Ezra chapter 16. But that spirit of fighting and warring is going to continue on until Christ comes back with Israel when they're refined. That dog-eat-dog scenario and protecting myself and fighting and war, that spirit is going to be what the world is. And we're going to come back to the world and reestablish and reteach that fear-based living got to go. Read verse 14.
Verse 14. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem.
Now when Judah gets built up, when that stony heart gets eliminated, Judah's going to be fighting at Jerusalem after Christ brings all the nations together. Read on.
And the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together.
One of the other reasons that he's bringing the rest of the world together is he's bringing the wealth of the world together so it can be divvied up to where it's got to go. The world's wealth, listen, part of being a world kingdom is receiving the wealth from the entire world. Right?
Yeah.
That's one of the perks of being a world leader. So Christ is going to collect all the wealth and the power, and the nations are coming with him. And there's going to be a large battle at the end in Jerusalem or in Israel for the territory and the power that's remaining on earth. Read on.
And shall be gathered together gold.
Just read verse 14 from the top.
Come, verse 14 from the top. Yes, sir. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance.
Now, listen, let's just jump to verse 16. I wasn't going to go here, but I'll go there real quick. Matter of fact, hold on. But let's not do that yet. Hold that. We'll get back to it. Go to Daniel 7 and 18. And then Psalms 31 and 20. So, Daniel 7 and 18.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 18.
Let me get there. Daniel 7 and 18.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 18. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom.
So this is what's happening. The saints are going to take the kingdom. What does the taking of the kingdom mean? The saints are going to be the ones that sit back here and enforce the laws that Christ has already established on earth. And we're going to take the kingdom by being the enforcers for Christ in the kingdom. We're not sitting back here and having riots and sitting back here and overthrowing the white man's power. That's not how it's going to go down. Christ is going to sit back here, establish his kingdom, and our job is to police and enforce and police Christ's ways all throughout the earth. It ain't no deeper than that. That's us taking the kingdom. Okay? Read on.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
Okay? Now, where I can prove that, let's go to Daniel's chapter. No, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm going too fast. Give me Psalms 31 and 23. I just want to make sure we do with that saints. And what makes a person a saint? Because just because you're an Israelite don't make you a saint. Read verse 23. Psalms 31 and 23.
Psalms chapter 31, verse 23. Oh, love the Most High, all ye his saints, for the Most High preserveth the faithful.
The saints are the ones who are the faithful. So when it says the saints shall take the kingdom, just because you're a Jew don't mean you're taking the kingdom. The faithful of the Israelites will take the kingdom. Read on.
Right. Oh, love the Most High, all ye saints, for the Most High preserveth the faith and plentifully rewardeth the proud doer.
When you sit back and go into the eastward and look at the word proud, it doesn't make sense how it's written, where it says, and plentifully rewards the proud doer. The proud in this context means excellent doer. The Most High rewards the excellent doer. The person who does things decently and in order. Those are the saints. The excellent doer and the faithful doer. Those are the ones that will take the kingdom. Because those are the ones who are going to get changed. Does that make sense? Because in order to do this job of taking the kingdom and enforcing the kingdom, you got to have excellent disposition. You can't be operating faithlessly. The faithful will be the ones who reinforce this earth and put the world back in order. The faithful and godly will do that. Because those are the only ones that are going to get changed anyway. Okay, so let that go and go now to Daniel 7 and 25 through 27.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25
through 27.
Come. And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
Now, when you read throughout this chapter, it's still talking about that fourth beast, but the latter end of that fourth beast, which is America. So he's talking about the nation of America is going to speak great words against the Most High through their propaganda, their social media, their policies of separating their culture from the Most High as much as possible by their pushing their multiple letter agendas. Okay? Their multiple flag agendas. Just their dystopian approach you're trying to take to this world. They're going to speak great things against the Most High. Read on.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And
the way that the nations or so-called white men wears out the saints of the Most High is through lowering the vibration on earth high.
Yep.
That's how you wear the saints out. If the saints are the faithful and take pleasure in operating and doing excellent works, how do you discourage that person? By sitting back here and creating a world that discourages the good in you, that discourages the virtue in you, that makes it hard to sit back and maintain having a positive outlook. That's how the saints of the Most High are worn out. It's psychological. You sit back here, listen to music a certain way, your mind, your outlook changes. Right or wrong? You watch television for a certain period of time, your thinking changes.
Yep.
How people are worn out is through propaganda, psychological attacks. Then you sit back here and you're around people who are consumed with what's going on in the world, and they're the most draining, life force taking people you can ever come across. You ever counsel a person and trying to bring them to Christ, and you have nothing in the tank after a 2-hour counsel? Dealing with a person that is just convinced that their negative way is right.
They're seared in their conscience.
That's how Esau is wearing out the saints of the Most High. As long as people have no inclination to sit back here and teach this word and study, their whole vibration pulls you down too.
Influence.
It's their influence. That's nothing to do about finances and money. We know we're under the curses. But how the media sets things up is what wears you down. The vibration of this world wears you down. The wickedness of this world wears you down. Continue.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws.
Everything is designed to trip you up and break a law. Whether the funnest night to go out is a Friday night,
Yep.
the food that looks the tastiest you're breaking the law, or they'll sit back here and they'll throw something in your favorite food that's against the law without you even knowing it. Everything in life is to sit back and corrupt you and disconnect you from the Heavenly Father.
Trip you up.
And trip you up. Read on.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of
And
time.
we've gone into that before. 350-year period when Israel had no knowledge of the Heavenly Father. From approximately 1628 AD to 1970 when the knowledge starts to come out on a larger level. Point still remains though, those wiles and those policies have been out here for years to weaken us and separate us from our power. Read on.
But the judgment shall sit.
But there's nothing that the policy makers can do. The judgment's going to happen. Christ is coming back. The ones who fight to the end and deal with that travail that comes before Israel is born, the ones who can endure the travail, they'll make it. Read on.
And they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end.
Our job is to sit back here under Christ's guidance to destroy that dominion all the way until the end. Read on.
And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High.
The dominion and the kingdom shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. Read on.
Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him.
There's no doubt about it. So read that again. Read verse 27 again.
Come, verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High.
So the people are going to get the kingdom, right? Read on.
Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him.
They're still going to serve and obey the one entity. They're going to serve and obey Christ. And we're going to be the ones that are the major beneficiaries of the world serving Christ. Let that go and go to Daniel chapter 2, verse 44 and 45.
Daniel chapter 2, verse 44.
Read on.
It says, and in the days of these kings shall the Most High of
Read it again from the top.
Gotcha. Daniel chapter 2, verse 44. It says, and in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
So what he's saying, this last kingdom is going to sit back here and consume all the other kingdoms that led up to this final kingdom. Read on.
45. It says, for as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands.
So he says the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands. He's talking about Christ. Okay, read on.
And that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold.
So what he's saying is Christ breaks down all of the prior empires and kingdoms and nations that once had power during different time periods on earth. We know gold was Babylon. We know silver was Persian Empire. We know the brass was the Greek Empire, and we also know the iron and miry clay was talking about the Roman Empire. He's saying all of those kingdoms are going to get broken down by that stone, which is Christ. Christ is still going to be that power entity that breaks the nations and establishes the regime change for Israel to enjoy it. Read on.
The great Yahweh hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure.
This is just showing that, yeah, we read in Daniel 7:27 that the saints are going to take the kingdom, but who's going to be the one really taking it? Christ is going to be, that stone's going to be breaking down all these nations and kingdoms. Not us, him. And we're going to be following suit behind Christ's influence. Let all that go and go to Obadiah, chapter 1. Obviously, it's only chapter 1. verse 15 through 18, and then jump to 21.
Con, Obadiah, verse 15.
Make sure everybody gets it,
Con,
including me. Read that. Well, hold on. Make sure he types it in too. Obadiah, yeah.
verse 15.
Read that.
Con, Obadiah, verse 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen.
All the heathen. We listen. We read in Daniel's. All the heathen is not just. It's talking about the entire world. But Obadiah is dealing with Esau in general. Read on.
As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee.
And we just read it. How Esau had to sit back here and strip the culture away from us and instill his American culture. And how the Spanish took away the indigenous people of Central and South America and put their culture on there, and the Portuguese did the same. What he's saying is, we're going to do the same to them. The same form of colonization, changing of their way of life, reestablishing whose God they're going to follow, what language they're going to speak, how they're going to live, how they're going to operate. We're going to do the same thing.
We're still in the new culture.
Yes, but it's not a culture based on being foul and out the spirit and just us feeding the flesh and just punishing for the hell of punishing. They're going to experience what we experienced, but for a better purpose. Read on.
God.
So what he's saying is they're going to feel the pain of having to change their language and change their lifestyle, but it's going to be for their betterment. Whereas for us, it was for our detriment. Read on.
God. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 16. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He said, as you have drunk upon my holy mountain, the nations have used, taken our natural resources, exploited us, taken our oil, our gas supplies, our food, our fruit, our labor, our work. What does a country have but their natural resources? All Esau has done is taken our gold, our natural resources, the things that makes a country independent. The nations have drunk and exploited us and have used us and brought us down to nothing. Everybody talks about immigration, and we talked about it a few weeks ago. And Trump is talking about removing all the illegal immigrants, or as many as they can, back to Mexico. But that's only, and then the Haitians and everybody else. But that's only a small portion of the bigger problem. Yeah, we're going to send these people back to their home countries. But why did they run up here in the first place? Do they love being American?
No.
Or the same America's geopolitical tactics and antics of taking their natural resources force them back up here. So if things are going to be done right, give these people their sovereignty and their power and their ability to self-sustain and self-manage themselves, and they won't come to our stinky-ass country. They'd be happy in Mexico. Don't put puppet governments and leaders in positions to ruin the people, and they can find happiness in their home country. That's the real issue. We're giving one-sided answers just to make our situation comfortable. That whole immigration concept is multi-tiered and really complex. But nobody gives a crap. They just care about just making a one-sided approach to make life easier up here. I understand it, but there's way more to it. And like this verse is saying, as they have drunk upon my holy mountain, they've taken Israel's natural resources all around the world. They've exploited and robbed and stolen from the entire world. Read on.
So shall all the heathen drink continually.
So what he's saying is he says the nations are going to be able to sustain off of what you took. We're going to distribute this wealth evenly. That's what he's saying. He says the nations are going to drink continually. He's like, I'm going to sit back and take what you've been hoarding and spread it around the world so everybody can have something. That lets you know that Esau's been taking from everybody so nobody can have anything. But that's the justice he's been talking about Israel, about the nations being rewarded, or Esau being rewarded for their wickedness. All he's saying is, listen, I'm going to take everything you hoarded and split it to everybody evenly so everybody can have a fair world and a fair chance in life. Read on.
Yeah, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been.
So he says the rest of the world is going to be in a safe, stable condition, and they're going to forget how bad it was when Esau was the colonial empire that they had been for so many generations. Read on.
Verse 17, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possession.
So he's saying Israel shall possess Esau's possessions. But in the verse earlier, he also said the nations are going to have and be able to drink continually off of these same resources. So what is it saying? It's saying Israel is going to get the resources and divvy it out to the rest of the world so everybody can have what they need. This is still not going to be some one-sided situation. Every nation is going to have what they need to survive and take care of themselves. And we are going to be rich. That's not going to change. We are going to have the riches and the power. But it doesn't mean the nations won't be able to survive and eat and take care of themselves. It's not going to be these crazy societal positions. People can't eat and they're just impoverished on every level. It's not going to be that either. Read on.
Verse 18, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it.
The Lord spoke it. So Esau will be wiped out for their works as a nation. So they're going to have to fall as a nation. Read verse 21.
Verse 21, and saviors shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the mount of Esau, and the kingdoms shall be the Lord's.
So he says, who are the saviors?
Kingdoms shall be the Lord's.
Who are the saviors? The saviors are still those saints. They're going to be judging the entire world. The saviors are the saints that are going to be judging from Mount Zion and judging Esau and judging the rest of the world. Okay? Let that go. And go now to Psalms chapter 2, verse 1 through 12. Psalms 2, verse 1 through 12.
Psalm chapter 2, verse 1.
Let me get there real quick, sir. Read that.
Psalm chapter 2, verse 1. Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves.
He says, why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? Read on. So he's setting up this chapter saying that the nations are delusional. Why are the nations tripping and thinking something's going to happen when it's not going to happen? Read verse 2.
Verse 2. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Most High and against his anointed.
So he says the kings of the earth, the rulers of the earth, the bankers, the ruling families, all the individuals with the money and the power to steer elections. You got to think about this. Trump had billions of dollars in finances. Matter of fact, Kamala had $1 billion. Trump had hundreds of millions of dollars backing. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, you can't win a campaign unless you have these high-end lobbyists contributing millions of dollars to you all throughout your campaign. So he's letting you know you just can't be some regular person with some good ideas and be put in a position of leadership in this country. That's not how it is. The powers that be put the people that are going to serve them and their interests at the top spot. So if Trump won, everybody's smiling, or at least the Republicans are happy that Trump won. He's still on following orders. There's still only so much he could do in his position because he has to serve and follow these lobbyists who have him moving and operating and doing what they say. So let's keep that in mind. So the true kings of the earth are the ones that are playing the background, making the real decisions, calling the real shots. Read on.
The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Most High and against his anointed.
The plans are always against Israel and Christ. Read on.
Saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us.
This is still the thinking of the nations when Christ comes back, when Christ reestablishes Israel. The thinking is always going to be to rebel. The thinking is always going to be to not serve Christ. That's going to be the movement even on the back end. It's the movement now. It's going to be the movement during the post-apocalyptic world. And it's going to be the movement when Christ comes back after Israel is purged. Read on.
Verse 4. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion.
He said, despite these plans, despite these decisions to slow down Christ and the Most High and to halt Israel, he says, I'm still going to put my king upon the holy hill of Zion. We've been reading about that mountain of Zion this entire time. Christ is still going to get put as the head of Israel of Mount Zion. That's not changing. Read on.
Verse 7. I will declare the decree. The Most High hath said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee.
He's telling that when Christ comes back, he's still coming back despite all of the moves to stop and counter this from happening. Read on.
Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the othermost parts of the earth for thy possession.
He said when Christ comes back, despite what's being done, the nations are going to be the possession of Christ. They're going to be the possession of Christ. Read on.
Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron.
Listen, we're going to break the nations with a rod of iron. We're going to do that through war, through breaking them through policies. Read on.
Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel.
And we're going to kill the ones who are rebellious. Israel's job is to do that. Read on.
Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth.
He's still talking to the nations. Be instructed. Listen, you better be aware of the fact that when Christ comes back, you're going to have to serve him. Read on.
Serve the Most High with fear and rejoice with trembling.
What you're seeing is what Christ is going to have to do to reestablish himself on earth is to establish fear of him. The world is going to learn not to be afraid of the people around them, but they're going to have to learn to fear and respect Christ when he comes back down. Because in another chapter that hopefully we can get to today, you'll read in Corinthians that Christ has to sit back here and get the world ready and in order for Christ to present the world to the Most High.
Yep.
So he's doing all this enforcing and this reestablishing the earth the way it's supposed to be, so that at the very end he can present it to the Most High, because now it's purged, pure, and ready for the Most High to receive it. Read on.
Verse 12. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry.
Listen, he's saying off rip, the nations better learn, especially the elites, to bow down and bend the knee to Christ.
Yeah.
Kiss the Son, lest he be angry. Read on.
And ye perish from the way.
This is the whole thing. This is where you read in Luke 19:27. These ones that don't serve me, slay them right in front of me. The world better learn now to bow down and serve Christ. Because by the time he comes back with his people, he's not playing these games anymore. Everything that's happening is leading up to this point where he's going to force the rest of the world to be in subjection to him. Read on.
And ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little.
But he says when you piss him off a little bit, he's wiping you off the map. Read on.
Blessed are all they that put their trust in him.
There you go, bro. Listen, this is real. And Christ is not playing no games when he comes back to put people in order. Next verse is Revelation chapter 2, verse 26 and 27. Are there any questions so far? Is it clear? I hope this entire process has been clear and we can kind of just run through it without a lot of confusion. Has it been smooth? Okay.
Good visionary.
So let's get to Revelation chapter 2 and verse 26 and 27.
Revelation chapter 2 and verse 26. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations.
Those are those saints. Those are those saviors. The saviors, the saints, is the ones who overcome and overcome that travail and are reborn. Okay? And he says, and keep my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. Read on.
And he shall rule them.
The ones that are the saints. Read on.
And he shall rule them with a rod of iron.
Sorry, that's Christ. Christ is going to rule the world with a rod of iron. Read on.
As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken.
We just read this in Psalms. It's saying, where do you think John everybody got it from? He says, he shall rule them with a rod of iron. This is how Christ is going to initiate reestablishing the world, reestablishing the earth, and using us as his battle axe and weapons of war. Read on.
And he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers.
Why does it say that the vessels have to be broken to shivers? Because this rod of iron has to be put in place so that the nation's will can be what? Broken. So that now the only thing that matters is serving the Heavenly Father. Because that's a lot of times what it takes to break a mind. There's no more options. There's no more moves. There's no more things I can wiggle around to get what I want. This is all I got, and I have to accept the condition the Lord got me in. That's how men are broken. Yes, sir.
So, like if you break something in like bigger chunks, it's easier to put back together. But when you smash it to smithereens, you can't put it back together.
Well, he's breaking it together so he can rebuild it in his image. He's breaking pride and ego. That's what's being broken. So he can mold it in the way that he's always intended to mold it. How we're reading how the Most High breaks nations is very important. It's how he breaks men. It's how he breaks women, Israel, and the nation. It's the same method. So let's not sit back and say, man, the Most High is going to wreck these nations. That's how he wrecks us. That's how he puts us in order. The formula is universal. Make sure we're conscious of that. Let that verse go and go to Zechariah chapter 12, verse 5 through 9.
Zechariah chapter 12 and verse 5. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength, and the Lord of hosts their power.
Matter of fact, give me verse 3 and then verse 5.
Zechariah 12.
Matter of fact, 2 and 3. 2, 3, and then 5 down.
2, 3, 5.
Sorry.
No problem. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 2. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about.
Why? Why does Jerusalem got to be a cup of trembling to everybody round about? That's the only thing that's going to get people to listen. There is going to be a fear of Israel when Christ comes back and uses that rod of iron to put everybody in order. There has to be fear before there can be peace. You see, different chapters highlight different aspects of this rebuilding of the world. Certain chapters start with strict. The nation's going to be happy and smiling. That's only the ones that got purged already. They're going to be happy and willing. The others are going to sit back here and learn how to fear again. The ones that come out from the rip and are serving, they already got purged. But the rest of the world's got to get purged now. And when they're getting purged, they're going to be afraid initially. Read on.
When they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem.
When they see us go to war, then everybody's going to sit back and recognize the gig is up. And after the rebels get extinct, there's going to be some real fear going around the world. Read on.
And in that day, I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people.
Hell yeah.
That's crazy.
You ain't going to want none of that smoke. When a Jewish representative comes to your town, they're going to be, yes, sir. What, are you here for peace or for war? Are you here for peace or for war? How can we help you? That's what's going to happen once that war in Israel takes place. And it says Judah and Jerusalem, because Judah's the head tribe, and they're going to be putting it down on these nations, and there's going to be a problem. Then everybody's going to be in fear. Read on.
All that burden themselves with it shall be cut into pieces.
Listen, all these people that burden themselves with should I lock in? Why should I follow? Why should I submit to this? There's got to be there's got to be get choked up, huh? Or just eradicate it. At that point, there's not going to be any should I do this or not? Why do I got to lock in? They're going to be sitting back here. He says, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut into pieces. All that burden themselves with Israel, with Judah. He says, all that burden Judah, all that burden Israel. How are the nations going to burden Israel? By their disobedience. Read on.
Though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it.
Even though the whole world is coming against it, it's still going to be, their resistance will be futile. Read on.
Verse 5. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in the Lord of hosts, their power.
Finally, Judah's not going to be selfish, and they're going to realize that their strength is in the body. The strength is in the people. Because throughout history, none of our leaders realized the strength was in serving the Most High and taking care of the people. Never thought that. We never consistently made serving the Most High and taking care of the people the priority. So read verse 5 again.
Verse 5. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength, and the Lord of hosts their power.
The strength was in the people. The kingdom was in the people. He's letting you know that these people are going to have a fleshy heart and understand what they were supposed to be learning from hundreds of years before. We're going to finally get it. Read on.
Verse 6. In that day will I make the governors of Judah like a hearth of fire among the wood.
The hearth of fire is like that, when you sit back here and do a bonfire, and you have like the clay container that you dig a little deep, and the whole area it keeps warm. The fire is inside, but what's holding the fire? It's the insulator is what keeps it warm and keeps the fire together. He says we're going to be like that hearth of fire amongst the wood. The leadership is going to keep the people together. Finally, we're going to keep the people together and unified and keep that fire controlled, but still potent. Read on.
And like a torch of fire in the sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left hand. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem.
So this chapter in Zechariah deals with the actual war once Christ brings all the nations together like that sheaf. Once all the nations come together, Judah being the leader and all the rest of the people in that land are going to come together, us, and wipe out these nations. Then the nations will be in fear of us. Then there will be respect. then there will be some honor. Yes, sir. One second, just answering this question. One second. I'm sorry for typing so horrible.
Yeah, the one finger thing is crazy.
It's a I can't hide it. I can't hide it.
Also, even like that, you had a question. The definition.
Huh?
Remember the definition text?
All you gotta do is text it in the thread. I'll show you what we do there. Okay, so where do we go? Listen, don't judge me with that. I never went to school for it. You gotta like put your fingers like this, like.
You know what was happening?
Only
Like the speed test.
I never learned it, bro.
No, you go online.
Yeah, there's a game. There's like a test.
I'm too old for that, cuz. I'm being stupid. I'm gonna stick with this. Not messing around. I'm being silly, y'all. I'm being silly. Even the cussing was stupid. Let's go. Let's read that.
Zechariah 12:7.
Yes.
The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first.
So once again, he's telling us Judah was going to be the leader. They were going to lead Israel through these fights, through these wars. Then it says the Lord's going to save the tents of Judah first. Read on.
That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah.
He's letting us know that the Most High is going to allow Judah to shine, and the rest of the tribes are going to follow Judah the way we were supposed to. You read in Genesis 49, it says the scepter will never depart from where? Judah. Judah was always supposed to be the head tribe. Now, when the Most High takes away that negative spirit from the whole nation, Judah will be able to rise and be the power they're supposed to be. Read on.
Verse 8. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day.
He says, the Lord shall defeat. Read verse 8 again. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So even though the Most High is using Israel as his battle axe and weapons of war against these nations, ultimately Christ is going to be the ones that gets us through these wars. Like he always has been from the beginning. People forget Christ was that fire in the night and the cloud in the day. He's always been there for us for all of our battles. And this battle at the end, when all of the rebellious nations that are still left on earth are going to get wiped out and eradicated. Judah will lead, the other 11 tribes will follow, but it's all through the power of Christ. Okay? Verse 8 again.
Come on, verse 8 from the top. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David.
Yep.
And the house of David shall be as the Most High, as the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to...
So he says, the feeble, he says, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. And the house of David shall be as a power, as the angel of the Lord before them. He's just letting us know that at the end there's going to be different classifications and different levels of power in the chosen. The most feeble of us are going to be as David. Whether it's physical, I tend to lean on the side of more spiritual. David's heart was pure towards the Heavenly Father. And that's why David was great in the Most High's eyes, because he had a heart like the Father. So he says the most feeble of us are going to be like David. We know the Most High is going to change our heart. So it's going to be what? Flesh. He's changing all of our heart. So the feeble of us are going to have that changed heart, but not be changed in the physical. And then he says the other ones are going to be like God's, because they're going to be changed like Christ. We're going to look like Christ when Christ comes back. Once we finish the purging that happens in the wilderness. Okay? All right. Let's continue.
Verse 9. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem.
It still goes back to that. all the nations that come against Jerusalem, Christ is going to wipe them out and use us. It's starting to get redundant, but there's a lot of information saying the same thing. We just have to learn the sequence and how it's put together. Okay? Give me Isaiah 60 and 12.
Okay.
Then we're going to go to 2nd Ezra again. 13.
Okay.
60 and 12.
Cover. Isaiah chapter 6.
60 and 12, sir. We're going to Isaiah chapter 60. If I finish this whole thing up next week, that's a lot of Isaiah 60 is in that chapter, in that class. Isaiah 60 and 12. Read that.
Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 12 reads, "For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted."
So Christ is going to try to teach, instruct, but he has to attack and break those rebels. That's how the entire world can get reestablished in learning how to value Christ and learn how to follow the Most High's way, so that when Christ gives the world back to the Most High, everything is in order. Let that go, and let's get to 2nd Ezra chapter 13. What time ago? 2:20.
2nd Ezra chapter 13. What was the first one?
13 verse 12, and we're going to read it down.
2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 12. Afterward, I saw the same man come down from the mountain.
That same man we were reading from verse 1 to 11, that same man is talking about Christ. So that same man, Christ, came down from the mountain. Read on.
And call unto him another peaceable multitude.
We got to sit back and find out what that peaceable multitude was that was with Christ when he came down from the mountain. Okay? Hold that and give me verse 39 and 40 of the same chapter. 2nd Ezra 13, verse 39 and 40.
2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 39. It says, "And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, the king."
King Hosea, read on.
It says, "Whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters. And so came they into another land."
So, this peaceable multitude that was with Christ is talking about Israel. The 10 tribes, he's talking about the nation of Israel came down with Christ before Christ starts to reorganize the world the way he wants it to be done. Okay? Now let's jump 2nd Ezra 13 and verse 13 and 14 now.
2nd Ezra chapter 13 and 13. "And there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad."
So some were glad. So listen, verse 12 talks about the Israelites. Now, read verse 13.
"And there came much people unto him."
So on top of these Israelites, there were other people that were with him. When that cases that came to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Read on.
"Whereof some were glad."
So some were glad. We've read about that in Isaiah 2. Read about that in Micah chapter 4. Those nations that are happy and are willing to serve Christ. Those nations that were purged in the wilderness, who got through it and still served, they're going to be willing to serve Christ, so they're not going to have to experience what?
Death.
Christ's hard death. Yes. They're not going to have to experience Christ's bad side. Because these nations were happy to be changed and protected by Christ.
Right.
Read on.
Some were sorry.
Some were sorry because some were remorseful for their wickedness. And those can be worked with and salvaged too. So he's like, some were happy, some were sorry for their wickedness. That both of those groups of nations can be managed. Read on.
Some of them were bound.
Some of those were bound. Those are the nations that didn't want to lock in. There's slavery waiting for these nations They don't want to. First of all, there's slavery working for all of them. But slavery is just based upon a word and a construct. What is slavery but occupation and a job for the benefit of the kingdom? Okay, because that's really what it is. Okay.
Some of them were bound.
Some of them were bound. Is that all that verse?
Wow.
Okay, read on.
It says, and other some brought of them that were offered.
Mm-hmm.
Then.
So he says and some of them brought of them that were offered. I mean, they were giving offerings. Yes. Okay, and we read about the offerings later on next week's class. That the nations were sitting back here and bringing the full force of their resources to Christ. Okay, so some are giving offerings, some feel bad, some are happy, some are in chains. But this verse is talking about the nations in general. Verse 13 was talking about what? Israel, the peaceful multitude. The rest was the nations and the different type of responses the nations were giving towards being subdued and based on how they received the new kingdom that's on the earth. Okay, read on.
Then was I sick through great fear, and I awaked and said,
stop. Let that go and go to Isaiah 45, verse 14 through 17. Isaiah 45, verse 14 through 17.
God, Isaiah chapter 45, verse 14.
Okay, slide that. That's it. Okay. Read that, sir.
Yes, sir. Thus saith the Lord, the labor of Egypt, and merchandise of Ethiopia, and of the Sabaeans, men of stature, shall come over unto thee, and they shall be thine. They shall come after thee in chains, they shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, saying, surely the Most High is in thee, and there is none else. There is no God.
There's no other God but the Most High. So this is proof in the actual Bible what Ezra is saying. There are going to be some that are happy to serve the Most High Christ, some that are sorrowful for what they've done, some that are in chains, and we're just reading about a lot of Hamites are going to be coming back in chains, having to serve Christ. So this is an explanation about how the nations are going to be in subjection to Christ in different ways. Chains mean they're going to be forcibly chained. Others are going to be coming willingly. Others are going to be willingly, but they're going to be sad and downtrodden. But this is the different dynamics of how the world's going to react to Christ's reappearance and reemergence on the scene and reestablishing of its empire. Okay, read on.
God, verse 15. Verily, thou art a power that verily, thou art a power that hideth thyself. O power of Israel, the Savior. They shall be ashamed and also confounded, all of them.
He says, verily, thou art a power that hidest thyself. Read on. They shall be ashamed and confounded. Read on.
And also confounded, all of them. They shall go to confusion together that are makers of idols.
It's going to be a significant change that these nations have to switch from idolatry to now serving the Most High. Read on.
Verse 17. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation.
Israel that's serving the Most High is going to be saved. Not all of them. Read on.
Ye shall not be ashamed, nor confounded world without end.
Our world is without end. The nations are going to have to take these lifetimes to learn how to serve the Most High and do things the right way. Okay? Let that verse go and go to Ezekiel chapter 39. Verse 11 through 16 and then 25 through 29.
Ezekiel chapter 39.
39, verse 11 through 16, and then 25 through 29. I don't know if we have enough time today, but we're going to get as much as we can done today.
Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 11.
Read that.
And it shall come to pass in that day that I would give unto God a place there of graves in Israel.
So Gog is just talking about the leader of Magog. And the leader of their forces in Magog, which is present-day Russia. So he says he's going to make unto God a place, Gog, a place there of graves in Israel. So he's going to be wiping out a lot of Russian people. Because listen, America's going to be gone. Where's the majority of your Edomites going to be coming from? Russia. What's that?
In the Isles.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the majority. Like Russia's huge. But I get what you're saying. So he's saying, you still got Europe still there too.
Yeah.
But he's like these Edomites. He's really just saying the last world power, because they're all going to be included in that situation. So he says that last world power is there's going to be massive graves in Israel after this fight that we were reading about. That all the nations are going to be gathered together to get wiped out. We read that, okay, and we read that everybody's going to be dreading Israel at that time after this war. Read on.
That I would give unto God a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea. And it shall stop the noses of the passengers. And
Listen, all those dead bodies are going to stop the noses of the passengers. What does that mean? There's going to be a heavy stench of dead bodies. That's going to shake everybody. Read on.
And there shall they bury God and all his multitude. And they shall call it the valley of Haman Gog.
Haman Gog is like the multitude of God. Okay, read on.
And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying of them.
This is 7 months. A complete amount of months. They're going to be burying Edomite bodies in the land to cleanse the land. Read on.
And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying of them, that they may cleanse the land. Yea, all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be to them a renown the day that I shall be glorified, saith the Lord power.
And it says 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them. But read verse 14.
Verse 14. And they shall sever out men of continual employment,
Read on.
passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth.
So who are these men of continual employment that are doing the burying? That's where the nations are going. The nation's job, they will have a job in this new kingdom. There's men of continual employment. That's the new word for servant. Men of continual employment. Like you're going to work until you go to the next life. And then your next generation is going to work. Listen, that's us. What do you think that was? You worked until you couldn't work anymore. Then your kids going to work until they know they can't work anymore. We're not going to act like that's not going to happen. That part of the Bible is there. Men of continual employment are going to be the grave digging crew. I know. And you got a whole crew, night shift, day shift. They'll stop on the Sabbath though. There'll be no more putting dead bodies in graves during the Sabbath. When the Sabbath's done, these continual employment boys got to get up on it, man. That's what it is. That's the party.
That's the real
graveyard. That's the graveyard shit. Continually. So he says, and they shall sever out, meaning pull out, men of continual employment. Read on.
Passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search.
So are we going to be burying people? Or they're going to be burying people? There you go for that complete amount of months. Because 7 just means completion. Read on.
And the passengers that pass through the land, when any seeth a man's bone, then shall he set up a sign by it. To the buriers have buried it in the valley of Haman Gog.
Where are we at? I'm sorry.
Verse 15.
Okay, read on.
Verse 16. And also the name of the city shall be
Hamonah. Thus shall they cleanse the land.
Okay. Let that verse go and jump to verse
25.
25. Yeah.
Verse 25. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power. Now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob.
Now this wording sounds weird. It's now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob. What that's saying is, now will I withdraw the captivity of Jacob. Okay? This is the time that Jacob or Israel will not be in captivity. Read on.
And have mercy upon the whole house of Israel.
Because if that verse meant to bring captivity back to Jacob, would that be mercy? Of course not. Read on.
And will be jealous for my holy name.
Read on.
After that they have borne their shame, and all their trespasses whereby they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid.
He says he's going to bring us back to our kingdom, and there's not going to be fear, and there's going to be safety in our land. After all these people are wiped out, all these nations are killed, and these continual employment boys do all the burying, the land will be cleansed, and then we can sit back here and start our habitations there again. So there's still a lot of fighting and killing and teaching and reordering and restructuring before we can finally enjoy our place. Does that make sense? There's a long road to hoe before we smiling and got gold chains and necklaces. All right? A long way before we get that. Read on.
Verse 27. When I have brought them again from the people and gathered them out of their enemies' lands, and am sanctified in them in the sight of many nations.
He sanctifies us in the sight of many nations. After we get purged, we get changed. That was our sanctification. And then when we sit back and put these nations in order, they learn to fear us again. Learn to fear Christ and the people that represent Christ. After the war, now all of a sudden there's going to be a fear of Judah and Jerusalem. There's going to be a fear of Christ. Now we can teach and put things in order without any more blowback. You see how it sets things up right? Read on.
Verse 28. Then shall they know that I am the Lord their power, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen.
Then the Jew is going to know that I'm the one that sat back here and brought you out of captivity. And I'm going to make you a powerful nation again, and you're going to gain the respect that you lost amongst the world. Christ is going to get his respect. The Most High is going to get his respect first. Then Israel will eventually gain their respect. Read on.
But I have gathered them unto their own land, and have left none of them any more there. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, saith the Most High Power.
And this is how things get reorganized and restructured. Now let's go to Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 13 through 20. Zephaniah 3, verse 13 through 20.
You man, you got it?
Come. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9.
13, sir.
13. Come, 13. It says, the remnant of Israel shall do no iniquity.
He says the rest of Israel that gets through the purging will do no iniquity. Why? Because the Most High changed our heart. He took that stony heart from us and gave us a fleshy heart. Now we have love for one another. Now we're not going to take advantage of one another. Read on.
Nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. For they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid.
They shall feed and lie down, which means they're going to have enough. You read all the time in the scriptures where we will take and take and just take and take, and nothing is ever good enough. So we're not going to do each other wrong, and we're not going to operate in fear. Read on.
God. Sing, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all the heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. The Most High hath taken away thy judgments. He hath cast out thine enemy, the King of Israel. Even the Most High is in the midst of thee.
The Lord's in the midst of thee at this time. Next week we'll read about how Christ is there amongst us in Israel. Read on.
Thou shalt not see evil anymore. In that day it shall be said to Jerusalem, fear thou not, and to Zion, let not thine hands be slack. The Most High thy power in the midst of thee is mighty. He will save. He will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest in his love. He will joy over thee with singing.
Now you can start seeing the good times coming. Now you can start seeing the peace amongst the nation and eventually the world. Read on.
Verse 18. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden.
This whole process of the kingdom is the gathering of those for this solemn assembly, who were burdened and reproached and still maintain their integrity. Read on.
Verse 19. Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee.
He says that this time he's going to undo all the affliction that was once put on us. Read on.
And I will save her that halteth.
He's going to save those that were damaged, that were hurt, that were not made whole. Read on.
And gather her that was driven out.
Bring us all back to Israel that was scattered for multiple generations. Read on.
And I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame.
This was taught over years about getting praise and fame in America. It's not the case. We're going to finally get that praise and fame once Christ gets his praise and fame. He got to get his praise and fame first. The nations got to get put in order. Then we get our praise and fame and our respect. This is sequentially how it's closer to this than not. Christ is getting his first. Most High gets his first. Then he says, we're going to be a troublesome stone to the world. Then he's going to use it as those battle axe, weapons of war. Then the nation will respect us. Then we're going to be using that respect that we've earned to be better teachers for them. Because just like in any student-teacher relationship, doesn't the teacher have to earn what? Respect. So the world, we got to get the praise and fame so we can come back and use that praise and fame to gather their ears, to listen and follow Christ more. Because they'll follow Christ more if they respect us as a nation. Why would these Hamites respect Israel when we've been the laughing stock to them since the beginning? We're going to have to come back. They're going to have to see us in our power and see Christ backing us. Then they'll respect us. But we have to use that respect so that our message can stick greater to the rest of the world, so we can be the light we were always supposed to be. Read on.
Verse 20. At that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you. For I will make you a name and a praise among all people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes.
And that's what it's about. It's about that. When he turns our captivity back from us and puts us back in our power for good. We're going to leave it at that. There's more, but we're going to leave it. I think that's a good icing on the cake. Are there any questions? Israel at the water for tuning in. See y'all on Wednesday with Shem Shawan. Y'all have a great night.